Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. I'm doing an early one today. I'm probably going to go on for as long as I can this morning. Big Des says that Albert Kidd is incoming. Well, let's hope so. Last night was unbelievable, not only for the Celtic fans, but it was 7,450. Can't believe it. 7,459 days since Martin O'Neill was last Celtic manager. 7,459 days since Martin O'Neill was Celtic manager. Football can do weird things. Martin O'Neill came back and he probably said around about 7,000 times that it was only a short-term interim manager basis. Like the fans were shouting, "Get interim" last night. And Celtic did just that with a performance that was much fitting of driving a Ferrari, not a Honda Civic, as someone once said. The fact that Dermot Desmond was at Celtic last night was no big shock, but Johnny Kenny was the man of the moment, who a lot of fans were saying that he would never be a Celtic player, he was never going to be good enough, he was never going to score the goals. Johnny Kenny last night was on the cusp of a hat-trick. He was just a little bit unlucky in front of goal. Johnny Kenny sat in the interview afterwards, and I've got to say, he was humble. Johnny Kenny was grateful. He was grateful to the ex-manager, and he said, "It's the first manager that I've lost in my career." He said, "I've never lost a manager before, so it's a strange feeling." But he was also came across as quietly confident. He was obviously relieved to score the two goals, and he showed a maturity in his age. On scoring the two goals, he said that he was delighted after coming on after a good few performances. It didn't just result in his goals, it felt great. I've been given the special opportunity at this club, and considering the recent pressure on the team, it was absolutely fantastic. He said about the fans, he mentioned how the supporters lifted the team. The connection was crucial. After a rough few weeks, he was asked several questions. He acknowledged that there's always pressure at Celtic Park, regardless of who's in charge. But he did note under the new interim manager, Martin O'Neill, they were told to go out, be free, but win. I love that. The noises coming out of Celtic Park last night after Martin O'Neill coming back. Martin O'Neill met the players yesterday afternoon at the hotel. And it was interesting. We'll listen to what Callum McGregor, we'll talk about what Callum McGregor said in a couple of minutes. He says, talking about Brendan Rodgers leaving the club, he says, "It was a strange and emotional day. Brendan's been here since I joined, so it was my first experience in losing the manager. Despite that, the team had to focus and deliver and put in a good performance." And he mentioned Callum McGregor, Casper, James Forrest. He says that they're key voices within the dressing room. And I hope that I was hoping that James Forrest was going to get a goal last night to mark off his 17th season at Celtic. And I hope that he does get a place. I mean, people are saying, why did it have to be... See, when you've came through the system at Celtic, you deserve a coaching job in the youth system. I know people are saying, well, go out and get the best people for the job. Sometimes that doesn't work, does it? You want people that really have the club at heart. But anyway, stepping up as the main striker. He feels that he's ready to be the main striker when called upon. The young 22-year-old. Getting the goal tonight builds his confidence going into the next matches. He says that this game was the biggest game of his career. And he said going into the game at the weekend at Hampden, that may likely be the biggest game of his career. And he said, listen, as Irishmen have got a good little thing about scoring at Hampden against Rangers. Adam Ida did it a few years ago in the final, and he said he wants to replicate that this weekend. And the feel-good factor may be back inside the ground, not permanently, but there was a big thing that happened outside the ground. A fantastic amount of fans outside the ground before the game protesting. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Martin O'Neill, He says that he was too young to remember Martin O'Neill. He knows his stature and the success that he had with the club, and he recognises the fans chanting for Martin O'Neill. It shows the respect that Martin O'Neill still has with the supporters. He said it was a massive game, and he says, look, understanding the magnitude of the rivalry going into this weekend, things will just go up a level. But he believes that this could transform their season. A win this weekend, knocking that lot out, and last night was the biggest win of the SPFL this season. No one else in Scottish football has won 4-0 this season. Hold my coffee, Martin O'Neill. Unbelievable. The standout quotes from the young striker said, look, Brendan Rodgers changed my life. I'll forever be grateful for that. He said, Martin said, go out there and play free, but we need to win. I'd have loved to have been in there. Martin O'Neill was a motivator. No negativity last night. From the very first moment, we went out and we excited the fans. And you've got to ask, that was a Ferrari driving last night. That wasn't a Honda Civic. Absolutely, Honda Civic material has gone out the window. I think when you look at the way that they were, there was a weight off their shoulders last night. Over the last couple of weeks, the players have looked as if they're dragging a bag of coal round about with them. You would think that they were playing with lead boots. Last night, there was a freedom. There was an excitement. There was no passing side to side until around about the moment Rio Hatate came on. Less about that, the better. Let's look at the positives this morning. If you didn't have a great sleep last night, there must be something wrong with you, because that was the best sleep, I've got to say, that I've had in weeks. It was a solid sleep. It was a happy sleep. And to wake up this morning, and things may have been completely different and we've got to say it, if it wasn't Martin O'Neill that came into the club, you have to say it was a little bit of a masterstroke by Dermot Desmond to pick up the phone to Martin. Because, yes, Martin O'Neill is the one person. He is the one person that I think can unify things and just make players happy. The fact that he gave his chance, Callum Osmond, his first chance at Celtic Park, he gave youth a chance, but he also likes to keep a little bit of experience, and he wants to. It was just fantastic last night, and to see him back in trackies at Celtic Park after all these years. A lot of people were saying, will he turn up in his trackies like he did all those years ago? Well, he did. He did that. He was given the keys of the Honda Civic. He was given the keys of the Honda Civic, but ultimately he drove out and went, I'm not driving that. This is a Ferrari. Telling the players that they were winners was one of the main things. When he went to the hotel to the player and met the players, I think that it was one of those moments that will sit with the players for the rest of their lives. When Martin O'Neill walked into the hotel, and a lot of the players may have been thinking, God, who's this old geezer? And then you've got the likes of Callum McGregor and everybody telling them about the fact that this manager 22 years ago took Celtic to a Europa Cup final, taking charge of the team for the first time in 20 years, giving the players the confidence to walk onto the pitch, knowing that they have the full backing of the manager, told to go and express themselves. Martin O'Neill said that the message to them was, I know that confidence has been a bit low, which is a natural thing in the world when you're getting the results that you're getting. But they didn't stop doing things. I told them we have a number of winners in this dressing room, and that's really important. The message was we had to win the game. Those lads have experienced low points during this season, but they fought back. The captain, Callum McGregor, is real quality. He is real quality. I've watched him from the sidelines, he said on Celtic TV last night. And he said that, sometimes when you see a player from afar, you think, yeah, he's okay. But when I've seen Callum McGregor up close, he's got real quality. And it's something that as Celtic fans, we give Callum a bit of stick. But when you've got somebody like Martin O'Neill praising Callum McGregor, you've got to think, let's not even look backwards. Because don't look back in anger. Don't look back in anger. Martin O'Neill rolled back the years, jumping around the pitch as Celtic scored 4 goals. Yes, 4 goals. When you think about it, Tenecti kind of topped it off, didn't he? Players finished the game walking around the pitch with happiness, smiles, but the manager didn't walk around the stadium with the players. He went away straight up the tunnel. He said that Kasper Schmeichel made a great save at 1-0, and he did that, and we came through really well. He says, when you look at it, if Kasper hadn't made the save, it could have been a different game completely. You know, he said that he thought he was past it when he was 48. Now that he's 73 and back into management, 6 years after not being in management, he says, I was worried about the match. He said, look, when I was last here, I had Henrik Larsson, I had Chris Sutton, I had Neil Lennon. We never treated any game lightly. I didn't know how these players would respond. It was a surreal feeling. You're in a coffee shop in London on a Monday morning. The coffee was dreadful. I got the call. That was the last thing on earth that came to my mind, that I would be manager of Celtic. Coming in was a bit of a whirlwind, as he says. He says, despite the score of 4 goals, O'Neill was delighted that they fashioned enough chances to get more. Where has this team been hiding? Where have they been hiding? Because this was, last night, it was an Eminem moment. Will the real Celtic FC please stand up? I think we got a problem here. And we did. We stood up. And I tell you one thing, we just didn't only stand up, we dominated. We played fast attacking football. Everything that hasn't been Celtic over the last the last months. Let's jump into the chat and see what some people are saying before we go on any further. Good morning, Baz and the One Celtic Fans You family. I had a dream. Martin O'Neill had a tracksuit on and we played well. It wasn't a dream, Lorna. It was the reality of Celtic Football Club. Celtic always have this thing of this ability to do things that you think is completely bonkers. Bringing back Martin O'Neill, if I could find him, there he is. Bringing back Martin O'Neill in his trackie, 73-year-old, looking far fitter than the previous manager, it has to be said, and in fine form at the side of the pitch. Having a manager that was motivating at the side of the pitch. Having a number two that was just as motivating at the side of the pitch is a big difference to what Celtic fans have been used to over the last couple of seasons. Because let's face it, there's a lot of people saying that it's disgraceful the way that Celtic treated John Kennedy. There has to be more to the story, but at the end of the day, let's not look back in anger. Let's move on. Will Martin O'Neill be here for longer? Will Celtic now sit back and say, right, there's no rush to get a manager in. We want to get the right person in. We want to get him in the right time. By all accounts, Celtic have a number one that they are aiming for. If I can just find him, is it this one? Yes, it's not. That's Bellamy. I mean, Bellamy's sneaked in, but it's this man, Kudson. No, sorry, it's Kudson. It's not Kudson at all, is it? Kudson is one of the favourites, but this is another Irishman that is heavily backed, and the odds are looking like he may be the one. Now, it's also been said that his current team are currently looking at alternatives should he take the job. It's looking like this will be your new Celtic manager. Dropping Hatate was the best decision in the way. Took away the negativity. It did, Del Boy. And anybody that says any different last night. I mean, I thought Rio Hatate, let's be honest here. When Rio Hatate came on, he's the one in the team that was still playing the Brendan Rodgers passing back stuff. And the game kind of went on a little lull at that point. Rio Hatate needs dropped out the team longer. You know, he needs told that he needs a kick up the arse. If you want to play for Celtic, we go forward. We do not go passing back side to side stuff. You know, Martin O'Neill sat down and told the players that they were winners. Give them that confidence back. Play with a freedom. Attack. Do not pass back. Whatever you do not pass back. And one of the it wasn't a funny moment, but one of the brightest moments of the game last night is when Austin Trusty gets the ball and he turns And normally, he would kick it back to Kasper Schmeichel. But he didn't. He looked as if he had the fear in him, as if to say, fuck. He probably heard Martin O'Neill at the sideline, don't you fucking dare pass that ball backwards. And he turned round and he passed it forward. And there were so many times that happened last night. Even Kasper Schmeichel, not playing out for the back for the majority of the game, not passing it out to the defenders, getting the ball up early. Good old-fashioned football. Do you know, it didn't have to be sexy. It had to be, you've got one job, and you've got one job only, is go forward and score. And that's it. Enjoy yourselves. And they definitely did that. I'm just enjoying the moment. I think everyone's enjoying the moment. Scarachi was different class. Yes, he was that. And I'll tell you one thing, Kieran Tierney is going to struggle to get back into this team. We didn't start the game with the man down for a change. And Hatate, it's so very true. So very true. Say Hibs missed a penalty, Hearts clawed a point. Yeah, it could have been so different last night. It could have been even better if Hearts had dropped more than just the 2 points. But anyway, who cares? Same team as Sunday, definitely. Everyone confident this morning. Martin O'Neill has the luck of the Irish. What a legend. I don't think that wasn't luck. I don't think that was luck last night. That was all about giving men a reality check, giving them a freedom, giving them instructions to, and just being honest with them. And I think that these players have felt subdued, that you have to play this system, you have to change the point of attack, you have to do this because Brendan Rodgers wants this, but the ball, if you can't get forward, pass the ball back to the keeper. So this, Martin O'Neill stood on television and asked Brendan Rodgers, Brendan, why do you pass the ball back all the time? And Brendan Rodgers said, well, when you've got the low block, you have to change the point of attack. So that's the reason that we... Martin O'Neill looked at him as if to say, are you fucking mental? You could feel the disbelief in Martin O'Neill in that. And I hope someone digs that interview out, because that was not luck last night. That was not a one-off. Do you know, players don't just... You don't have a lucky game and put in a performance like... That was the performance of last season. That was the performance that these players put in the Champions League last season. Something at Celtic has been holding these players back, mentally, physically, and you've got to say it's left the building now. And if Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney are going to be here a little bit longer until Celtic just get the right man at the right price, you never know. Come the next international window, Celtic might have made their move by then. Scarachi and Tenecti were fantastic together. Yeah, they were that. The past 48 hours, look at them, 73 in a tracksuit, love it. I know. If you're walking down the street in your suit to then getting the flight up to... Rodgers played Benji out of position, didn't play Trusty or Ralston, lowered the team's morale, wanted out, used the boards to do so. Martin O'Neill will get himself a wee league title at 73. Can we go further than just the league title? Can we win a treble? Could you imagine Martin O'Neill coming in and winning the treble? There's one thing that's for sure. Whilst we were all jumping on and being really pissed off with the statement that came out of Celtic, you have to say that the way that the players played last night, from going for the Honda Civic chat to that performance, you have to look at the direct correlation between then and now. What motivational speak makes the Messiah has returned. I know. Baz, they were not hiding. The rat pissed them off. Yeah. As much as you back at any Celtic manager, I think that if we hadn't got that performance last night, you could maybe say that there was something in it. But the fact that Martin O'Neill fine-tuned that Ferrari, sat in the driver's seat, and went, this isn't a Honda Civic. Turned the key, allowed it to purr. And it didn't only purr, but it ran out on a vengeance. And that's what Celtic did last night. It wasn't pretty in the first 10-15 minutes, I admit that. It was a little bit of nervioso in the fans. But I tell you one thing, it was absolutely fantastic to watch. And it was something that we haven't had the privilege of this season. There was little glimpses of it pre-season, but nowhere near that standard. Sean Maloney and Martin O'Neill managed to take this group of players, and we were all sitting thinking just a week ago, who can come in and get these players back up? Because if it is the standard, and by the way, we were all brainwashed by Brendan Rodgers. We were all brainwashed. Do you know the level of the players shite? It's the players. It's the same players that have been shite all season that played out their skin last night. There was no... For the first time in a long time, we get to half-time. And we get to half-time and we're sitting talking about how good it is. Normally this season, we get to half-time and you're shouting, get him off, get him off, get him off. That never happened last night. There was no rush to take any players off. Martin O'Neill did it at the right time when we had the goals, and then he brings on the younger players. It was a big moment last night for Martin O'Neill. I mean, let's get the team up. We do have the team. I mean, this is the team that he called to start the game last night. And then, I mean, when you look at it, Schmeichel, Ralston, Trusty, Scales, Scarachi. You've got to ask, I hope Kieran Tierney isn't going to be out too long. McGregor, Engels, Benji in the midfield. I would say that Nygren was probably the player that wasn't 110%. He needs to start hitting the target. Benji starts hitting the target and he could maybe get up there towards Matt O'Reilly type stuff. He's a long way from it before you say. Yeah, I understand he's a long way from being anywhere near the quality of Matt O'Reilly. But for a player that gets into the positions that he does, and the attempts on goals that he's getting it handed to him on a plate and he's missing. He needs to start hitting the target. James Forrest coming on and doing what James Forrest done. He was phenomenal for 60 minutes. And I thought that was the right thing to do. I said at the beginning of the match when James Forrest, I seen it on the team, I was like, James Forrest can make a bigger impact for 60 minutes than he can for coming on the last 20 minutes of a game. And that's what Brendan Rodgers did wrong, in my opinion. Trying to make... You can understand why he was doing it from a football perspective. But we'd been sucked into believing that this type of football is the right way over the last couple of seasons, and it's not, and it isn't. I'm so glad, and I've still got to pinch myself. And I've got to drink even more coffee because it was an unbelievable performance last night, and I thought it was brilliant. Johnny Kenny, Tenecte on fire. I'm not sure who got man of the match. Was it Tenecte, Scarachi? I mean, Johnny Kenny, first goal Sunday. Well, let's hope so. Martin knows how to make him feel 10 feet tall. Very clever. Make sure players hear things. Discussing it with quickness. Yeah. I still think that whoever comes in after Martin O'Neill will have a big, massive set of shoes to fill. Because I mean, Brendan Rodgers is gone. But I tell you one thing, I don't think that there are a lot of fans. I don't think there's a lot of fans that would be too upset if we were stuck with Maloney and Martin O'Neill till the end of the season. Because it gave us all last night. What last night did do is at the end of the game, it was all about being back to being Celtic. We appreciate what Brendan's done over his 2 periods at Celtic. but the writing was on the wall. We knew we were at the end game of his tenure at Celtic. We all known that. I mean, everyone's been talking about the fact that there was no contract, whatever. We all knew he was leaving at some point. We didn't think it was going to be this quick, but that's it. Like the song says, don't look back in anger, I heard you say. Anyway, John Kennedy had long overstayed his welcome in 27 years. Speaking to Lawwell's brother, he said that Brendan always signed off the players and had the last say. Players look far more like a Celtic team last night. The players that give more than for the previous manager. It's an interesting one. That I mean, I don't think that we should look. He's gone. It's over with. Look forward. We've got a lot to look forward to. It just shows you that a change of manager and the new manager bounce. And we're in a lucky situation at Celtic as well, because there is no one coming out publicly and saying, I don't want the job. Count me out of the running. Now, people will come out and say that, Ange Postecoglou has turned down the job. I don't think that Ange Postecoglou has actually been offered the job. There may be a conversation between intermediaries. You never know. Dermot might have phoned them up and said, Ange, any chance? Nah, mate, it's cool. I've just been paid $7 million for 39 days work. I'm away to relax in Greece, on a Greek island for a few months. I'm in no rush to get back into football. Right, no worries. Cheers, mate. Thanks for your time. Bye. Boom, down the phone goes. Then he gets the phone to this man at some point, and he's told, look, it's going to cost you $5 million to get me out of this contract. What are the wages? Because I'm on damn good wages down here. And ultimately, what's your objective with Celtic? How far can we really take Celtic? Because Martin O'Neill was giving us all the belief that, that these players aren't as bad as what we thought. Let's say that. Do you know? Baz, Martin O'Neill beats them at the weekend and then catches Hearts by January. Is Desmond vindicated at that point? Well, there was we need to talk about the fans. There were thousands upon thousands of fans before the game outside chanting sack the boards, letting off pyro and such like, and whilst people sat up in the lounges looking out, having their dinner. Oh, look, the minions are out upset as they sit tucking into their food in the main stadium in Celtic Park. I fully still back that some action needs to be taken with these people at Celtic. I'm going to just download something. Where is it? Let me just save this down. I'm going to put something on the screen that goes back to Ronnie Dyler, Neil Lennon, Ange Postecoglou, Brendan Rodgers, and Brendan Rodgers when his time at Celtic. Because it's very interesting, and it shows that we still need change within the club. By no means am I saying that we don't need change at boardroom level. We do. But when you see things like this online, it makes you think. It does make you think. Now, I'll just put this there so it's full screen. We'll go back to Ronnie Dyler. We had players that we wanted to bring in, but things take too long. Negotiations drag. By the time we get them, the market has moved on. It makes it difficult to get the squad quickly together. That's a frustrating thing because it slows down preparation for the season. That was Ronnie Dyler. Neil Lennon. There was a lot we wanted to do in the summer, but the financial reality of the club strategy meant that you can't always act as quickly as you'd like. Sometimes feels like the process is just too slow. Ange Postecoglou. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. I don't know. I think I've been pretty consistent in saying we need more players in. Obviously, I haven't done enough to convince people to bring people in. I'm not going to shy away from it. I've tried to be forceful as I can. Brendan Rodgers, the second time round, we are clear that we need to improve. And for whatever reason, we haven't been able to. There is only so many ways that I can dress up that we don't have the players here. That was pretty clear. Well, we had the players that performed last night. Brendan Rodgers, the first time round. We have a recruitment model here. I can only work within that. We identify the players we want. There's often a delay in negotiations. By the time the deal goes through, the market has moved on. That's always frustrating. there is a consistent... This doesn't just go back to the last transfer window with the situation with the board dragging its heels. It's something that's been an issue with Celtic for a long, long time. And that is why the fans won't change at the club. And I fully back that. We do need some kind of change. The majority owner was sitting at Celtic Park last night, listening to the chants of sack the board. Will there be any difference going forward? Will there be any movement at boardroom level? Our esteemed owner, I was going to say that he's the missing man, but he was at Celtic Park last night. He obviously would have sat with Martin O'Neill after the game last night and asked for his honest opinion about the players. And he would give an honest opinion about where the players are. And he would also give an honest opinion about what he thinks he needs improved in the squad. And then he may have been asked his advice about sounding out, what about this guy for manager? How do you think about him? It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks at Celtic. So, John Kennedy getting paid to fold his arms way too long. It was that. Let's just jump through some of these guys. If McKenna gets the job, I would like to see Bruni as the assistant. That's not going to happen, JT boy. Scott Brown's not going to walk away. Scott Brown said it in public many times. Look, this has been a long-term objective of Scott Brown's and Whittaker. They've been mates since they were kids. You don't rat on your mate like that. He's not Brendan Rodgers. Scott Brown isn't a Brendan Rodgers. Give Bruni his time and Bruni will get the job in due course, I'm sure. Lyle wouldn't say anywhere else. Asked them to sign Shin. Hatate's been shit for 2 years. A month out of the team for Hatate changes attitude. I think Tonecti maybe track back a lot quicker. Scratchy bombs forward, but exposed at times. DD vindicated as bringing in Martin O'Neill back. As for the rest, don't know. Who signed it off? Brendan. Any word on KT and Shin not being in the squads? There's a lot of stuff out there this morning that I've not had time to look at. I'll have a look at it later on, and we might jump on a live. We'll jump on a live this afternoon because obviously there is the ongoing situation of Celtic manager, and I'm sure that there will be some kind of updates today as the power broker Dermot Desmond is in Glasgow, which means he's here to do business. He's not here to fucking play golf. He's here to sort out the fucking shit show. Let's be honest. Lorna Gallagher says, football is simple. Simple game. If you keep it simple and you don't pass it side to side and backwards and change the point of attack and try to be too fucking tactical, just get the ball forward and scores. Just get the ball forward and score. Can't wait for Sunday now, bring it on. Shin should be a sub on Sunday. His pace will kill them off on that big pitch. It depends what's been going on in training. Do you know, people are saying get Shin Yamada on. I think that Callum Osmond was unlucky last night. And I said before the game last night, whatever Shin Yamada's doing in training, do you know, the last couple of days, it's a fresh team that's come in. If Callum Osmond's going 110% in training, and the coaching staff are like, this young boy's a fucking player, isn't he? And then they're looking at Shin Yamada, and if Shin Yamada's only going at 90%, yeah, young boy gets the nod. That's the way that football works. Football's not a difficult game. You know, we can all sit as football coaches on social media and say, he has to start, he has to be on the bench, he has to be on the bench. We don't see what they're doing in training. We don't see the attitude of the players. The attitude of the player might be stinking in training. You know? Game last night to Sunday, it was night and day. Yeah, it was. Martin O'Neill would discriminate against short players. I apologise if I've not read your comments. I'm going to jump through. Brendan Rodgers didn't beat Dundee at this point. Martin O'Neill restored the confidence back to a winning way. Fuck training, just tell them they're great. Lol. It worked last night. Don't know. The idea of winning a treble under Monday was folklore that the club is built on. Lorna is, isn't it? There's a romanticness, there's a romance about Celtic that's been said many times. many times. And the history of Celtic Football Club is littered with special moments. To get to the second 9 in a row for the second time, fantastic. To get to Seville under Martin O'Neill, beating Blackburn with Graham Souness, beating Liverpool, getting cheated out of it by Porto. But we're unlucky on that night. But there's a romance about Celtic. And things happen. And like Big Dizzy said at the beginning, is this Albert Kidd year Mark II? You've got to give Big Sean a say last night. Sean Maloney, Ferrari. We Marty had a Ferrari test. O'Neill won't be here long to win enough anything. He's here for a few games. You never know. He might be here till December. He might be here to the cup final. He might do what Kenny Dalglish did. You've got to remember, Kenny Dalglish was part of the dream team. One part of the dream team was a Honda Civic. It wasn't even a Honda Civic. It was a Fiat Panda. And the Fiat Panda was kicked out the club. And one of the legendary names of the club, Kenny Dalglish, was forced into the hot seat just before Martin O'Neill came into the club, remember. And he was forced into the hot seat and he won a trophy. He'll always go down as a manager that won a trophy at Celtic, even though that Dalglish was only here for a short time. If Martin O'Neill wins on Sunday, and maybe is around till the beginning of December, whenever the final is, and he wins it, that's enough for Martin O'Neill to drive off into the sunset in his Ferrari, cigar in his mouth, and then a wee glass of rosé, and sit back and go, now that was fun. and do you know what? He then gets the swagger. He gets the swagger for the next time that he's doing his television gigs. He gets the swagger to come on and say, yeah, who says if you're old enough, you're good enough. If you're young enough, you're good enough. Do you know? He will definitely have a swagger about him, that's for sure. Martin O'Neill isn't daft. He knows that he's passing forward and attacking, gets the fans up to watch, raises the atmosphere. Exactly. That's the Celtic way, isn't it? Baz, it was Falkirk, for fuck's sake. Mate, we got beat by Dundee. We got annihilated by Hearts. There was no side-to-side passing last night. Let's not take the shine off it. Let's not take the shine off how important that performance was last night. Because Rodgers would never have won 4-0 last night. Not at all. Rodgers would have still played all his favourites and we would have dropped points. Guarantee it. And fans know it. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and say that that would have been our midfield last night and that Rio Hatate would be sitting on the bench if the last manager was still here, wake up and smell the coffee. Because it wasn't just the case it was Falkirk. It was about performance. It was about attitude. It was about motivation. And something that we've been lacking for weeks and weeks and weeks. That's all I'm saying on that. I agree. Well done with you, Sean. I'm going to jump through these comments. Apologies if I don't read your comments. I'm just going to... I hope Martin O'Neill is temporary here all season. I hope Martin is here so I can see him against Kilmarnock. How long have we been on? Been on for 39 minutes this morning. Right, that's enough of the comments this morning. Let's jump back into the news and let's see what's been said. Martin O'Neill's men hit top gear as one headline. One headline coming out of Ireland. As I reminded them they are winners, Martin O'Neill reveals how he inspired Celtic to get back on track on his big return to the Parkhead dugout. Another headline, banishing the anxiety and restoring confidence, O'Neill's Celtic return. Exactly. And that's what Martin O'Neill did last night. You know, to say it was just Falkirk, banishing the anxiety. There was anxiety in the fans. There was anxiety in the players. Another headline, Martin O'Neill reacts to Celtic fan chants, addresses his Hearts comments and explains the Kieran Tierney absence. Let's just get that update on Kieran Tierney. O'Neill said that he sent a message to some of the players to remind them that they were winning, their confidence was low, but I said some of the lads might have no idea who I was. But it's not about me. It's about them. They're the winners. Now's time to fight back, Martin O'Neill told them. Callum McGregor says, look, there's real quality in here. It was a quality performance all round. Johnny Kenny, who scored a double, played himself into contention for a starting role against Rangers on Sunday for the Premier Sports Cup semi-final. Dyson Maeda made a return after his hamstring stroke back after the 65th minute, replacing Johnny Kenny. Johnny Kenny says that he did real fine. O'Neill says that Johnny Kenny did fine. He's learning the game. He looks a proper goal scorer, proper striker. He did really well, says Martin O'Neill. The physios said that Maeda could get 35 minutes or so. They calculated that. I don't know. The things that I have to learn. It's interesting that the physios and you know, Martin O'Neill would have went, lad, son, come here. Are you fit? Right. You're going on the second half. But Martin O'Neill, it's changed days, isn't it? Cleared about Kieran Tierney. He says the left back was not even named in the squad. Marcello Scarachi deploys that. He says Tierney was said to be feeling better. There is a niggling thing. I saw him in the dressing room before the game and he said that he was feeling better than he has. I know that he played the game against Hearts. He said that the injury and stiffness, as much as everything, was niggling him. But the wee laddie Scarachi, who played at left back, was great. He's an international player, you know, said Martin O'Neill. I met him for the first time today. I asked him to go out and play. He said, yes, I'll do that. I love it. I love it. And, you know, go out and play. Yes, boss, I'll do it. It's fantastic. What a time to be a Celtic fan again. It's I know everything is not perfect at Celtic, and I'm not going to deny it. There is things that need to change. But at the same time, we haven't went through a complete meltdown. There's clubs in Scotland will have been hoping that this period of Celtic would see us go into massive decline. We've not. We are Celtic. We decide. And you can't keep us down forever. That's for sure. And on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans. Make sure to check out the channel. We'll all be live this afternoon as we get some kind of update on the Celtic manager's hunt by our owner and board.